Go 95.3, Chaz Kangas here, and joining me, my guest at this time, one of the end of the decade's breakout stars. Questlove dubbed her Soul Capella. You know her for tracks like Try, Insane, and her latest No Room, all from her newly released You and I EP. She plays the Ice House this Thursday, December 12th. The great Madison McFerrin. Madison, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Spectacular. Thanks for asking. So I'm a former New York resident, and I know like the difficulties of really breaking through in the New York scene where you had so many big moments to really come out. With all that sort of transpired, what was it like really breaking out of such a massive like music scene in the late 2010s, as it were?
I think it really just comes down to making sure that you have your own unique style and, have something to say, because there is so much music coming out. So you want to make yourself visible and have something that's going to catch people's attention. So I was just doing my best to, make my vocals shine. And I think it really came through.
Excellent. And during my time out there, I actually got to see your brother Taylor quite a bit, part of the Bowery Poetry Club scene and things like that. So, and one big standout thing about his particular style is the live looping, the live, vocalization that he would be doing. And I hear like a lot of that like carries through in both you making a name for yourself in your live performances. So how did you best convey so many, being that he produced your new EP? How was it work conveying all those live elements to a recorded in studio version?
It was, it was a process of, he sent me some music and I wrote to it and kind of figured out the live set after the fact. So it's been a more like opposite, direct, like backwards writing style than I usually do. I usually like go with chords and melody and lyrics and kind of learn the live set in that process. So this was a new process for me, and it was fun. I'm always down for a challenge.
Excellent. So as we were discussing before we were on air, you at one point lived out here in Minnesota, so you're no stranger to how unforgivingly brutal these winters are. So during what time were you living out here, and how do you feel that if it did have any sort of shape on the impact of your sound?
I lived here from 94 to 2001, so I spent the majority of my elementary school days here. And, something about the cold here really helps fortify you in certain ways. And I still, like, my best friends to this day are people that I met out here. So there's a very solid home base that I feel when I come back. I prefer to come back when it's warmer, but
that lovely 2-week period
out of the year. Yeah, exactly. But I also, when I was living here, my dad was the head lead conductor for the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, and so I spent a lot of time listening to classical music and going to the orchestra to see the symphony a lot. And I think that listening to those different arrangements really has informed a lot of how I approach vocal harmony, because it's very similar to, like a string arrangement or something like that. So I think just having very early exposure to the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra has definitely been a key element to my approach to music.
Wonderful. And this year you had the single and video for Try, and the video itself really deals with a lot of processing social media, which now is more ubiquitous than ever in every single thing that we do and we see. And, whether it's, the large tidal wave of critiques and criticisms. So being that dropped 3 months ago, I'm curious, how do you find, since we hear from a lot of listeners who do struggle with this, the healthiest way to sort of balance having social media and the impact of it in your life?
Well, I think it really comes down to being secure enough in yourself to understand that social media is an incredible tool to be able to connect with people and put your stuff out there, whether it's, a business or art or whatever you're doing. But it has also allowed people to feel like they have agency to say certain things that they probably wouldn't say to your face. And I I think that what it comes down to is understanding that I think, making fun of people and so something about that is in human nature. And you also just have to understand that if you are strong enough in yourself, you can get through it, which was one of the things that it was tough for me to get through. But on the other side, like, I feel so grateful that I actually had the opportunity to go through something like that, because now my skin is that much thicker, and I know that it's, that's a reflection of other people. That's not a reflection of me. It's not a reflection of the hard work that I've put in, and I made it through the other side. And so if you just trust that you can get to the other side, because one thing that was also really helpful for me was actually talking about it and not like hiding in shame, which is how I initially approached it. Is like, I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. I didn't want to even like think about it. But then I really began to overcome those like scary feelings when I actually started being open and honest, not just to my friends, but to my family and to my fans. And just to show that, once you really get it out in the open, like, it makes the boogeyman that much smaller each time. And it gets to the point where you can eventually just be like, hey, like, this isn't going to stop me. So I think you really just have to believe in yourself and know that everybody's going to make mistakes. And so as long as you continue to understand that, like, it's not going to be the last mistake that you make, but you can just keep punching forward, I think that's the best way to balance.
That's absolutely wonderful. I really appreciate that. Finally, on a happier note, the latest single we have from you is No Room, which also has a very cool video on there. What's the story behind how No Room came together?
Well, when I was putting the EP together, I knew that I wanted it to be about relationships, and I knew that the relationship to society was one that I wanted to dive into, which No Room is about, just how we react to, ourselves in response to our communities around us, both small and global. And I think particularly in this, what feels like a very polarized time, oftentimes it feels like we can't actually come together. We can't talk to one another. We can't have difficult conversations. It's really just like you and I, but it's more so, if anything, you versus I, or like me versus you. And so I really wanted to just, pose the question, like, can we actually come back together and work things out? What I was thinking about concretely was, this current political climate, just thinking about like how we seemingly can't even have conversations across the aisle, and just wondering, like, will we ever be able to have those conversations again? Or will it be too late? Like, will it be to the point when, we are in an even more dire global climate catastrophe that is what makes us able to actually talk to each other because we're in crisis, or can we actually get to that point before we reach a crisis? So that's really how it came about. Just wanting to really pose that question of like, can we actually come together as humans, to have difficult conversations and to actually learn to understand one another so that we can progress forward on this planet as a species, and even just in the microcosms of in your own home. If you have disagreements, I think one thing that social media has done is it has definitely contributed to the extreme polarization that has occurred. So even just like being able to talk to people in those settings. So that's how it came about.
Gotcha. Well, I'm looking forward to coming together with a lot of people to check out your show Thursday, December 12th at the Ice House. Madison McFerrin, thank you once again so much for joining us. This has been a treat.
Thank you for having me.